we don't have time in football. The clubs, they cannot see behind the results. If you win the next game, okay, you have a project. If you lose, maybe you are out.
The very, very first thing is be transparent and honest, because people are not stupid. The owners need to like the coach, and the coach needs to like the owners, or they need to have the same vision. Otherwise, presentations don't matter.
This is a really important section when you're trying to demonstrate how your coaches' teams play and their sort of philosophy and fit for a club.
How do you deal with the pressure? Welcome everyone to A Tale of Two Halves inside head coach recruitment. Now, hiring the right head coach and finding the right club for a head coach is very complex. As we know, on average, they only last just 8 months in a role. So how does the process really work, and how do the coach, the club, and the agent make sure it is a perfect match? Now, we're going to be hearing about that journey from a top head coach and also a top agent as well over the next hour. And we're also going to be find out why TransferRoom's CoachFinder for clubs and agents can make the process a whole lot easier. As I mentioned, my name is Adam Leventhal, broadcaster and journalist from The Athletic, and I'm going to be your host for this special webinar by TransferRoom, football's only transfer marketplace. Now, I'm delighted to welcome two of our three special guests on this webinar. And first of all, welcome to the head coach of Al-Shabab FC in the Saudi Pro League, the former boss of Porto, Fenerbahce, and Corinthians, among others. Welcome to Vitor Pereira, who is with us today. Vitor, great to see you. Thank you very much for being here. How are you?
Thanks I'm okay. Hello, everybody. Thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
It's great to have you on board. So Vitor is here. And next, we also, as promised, have a top agent who knows all about moving head coaches to clubs, having been in the industry for over 30 years. He's also at one of the 450 plus trusted agencies on TransferRoom. Welcome to John Viola of the 451 Football Consultancy. Are you ready and raring to go, John?
Adam, I'm really looking forward to this. Thanks for inviting me along, and I'm sure we're going to have a good time.
So welcome to John. Welcome to Vitor. Vitor, what is the key to getting the right job as a head coach for you?
You need to have competence as a coach, and you need to have a good agent, to find a good agent, honest person to advise you, to help you to choose the good club. It's important to have the meeting. I had a lot of meetings in my career. When the meeting is about football, it's very easy for me. But a lot of times the meeting is not about football. You understand? It's just about the relationship. That's about we talk. But when I go to a meeting, I try to resume the style of play, what I can offer to the club. In my opinion, is important when someone comes to a meeting with a coach. Is important to study the coach, to understand what is the style of play of the coach, what is the style of leadership. You understand? And sometimes when we go to a meeting, we feel if we have this connection or not. You understand? I had a lot of meetings that I didn't feel this connection. I felt that I was with someone that was not prepared for the meeting. You understand? And the agent is a important person to connect each other. You understand?
Yeah, let me bring in John there, because obviously you're the matchmaker, John. I mean, in terms of your role in this, what's the most important thing in trying to get the right job for your client?
The most important thing is to make sure that the two people marry with each other, to make sure they've got the same philosophy, they've got the same concepts, they've got the same ideas. There's no sense in bringing And a manager to, or a coach to a club or an owner, and they're in two completely different avenues. They'll need to be thinking along the same philosophy. They've got to be thinking about exactly what it is that they want to achieve together. And when I'm trying to put something together, I know that before I make the call. I'm hoping if I was taking Victor to a club that both him and I have discussed exactly what it needs to be successful at this club. And the club owners and directors need to be on the same page. That's the very, very first thing that I need to ascertain before I make a call.
Well, we'll hear much more throughout this webinar. That's a little introduction to Vitor and John. They're going to be with us throughout. Now, I mentioned CoachFinder earlier on, and that leads us to our next guest, and that's TransferRoom's Head of Data Intelligence, Mr. Daniel Blades, who is here with us today. Let's start with the background, the basics. Just briefly sum up what CoachFinder is and how it helps agents especially.
Thanks, Adam. So CoachFinder is our unique tool that gives club decision makers access to our global database of around 7,000 head coach profiles. And that provides them with the platform to quickly identify relevant candidates, expand their global talent pool, and sort of make smart data-driven decisions about appointing the right person. So we found that agents can find it difficult to achieve the right move for their head coach for a number of reasons, because they can't always tell which suitable clubs are looking for a new head coach, and they may even be limited to opportunities with the clubs that they already have within their existing network. So CoachFinder for Agents solves these problems by allowing our trusted agents to verify that they represent a head coach, and therefore clubs can get directly in touch with the representative of the candidate they're interested in. And then agents can also get data-driven recommendations for the most suitable clubs for their clients, and pitch their clients directly to decision makers at any club of their choice, and leveraging that profile to really demonstrate the impact and suitability of their head coach.
Daniel, thank you very much for now. Let's welcome Vitor back into the room, and we can focus on his journey as a head coach. Just sum up the start of your coaching career when you landed your first major role at FC Porto as head coach back in 2011. How did that come about?
I was a player. I had my career as a player in the third division, the divisions in Portugal. It means when I was a player, a lot of times in that moment, I felt that I was a coach. I started to be a coach when I was a player. You understand? Because on the pitch, I like to organize the team, to organize everything. Then when I stopped it, I started as an assistant coach in the second division in Portugal. And then I had the opportunity to go in youth teams of Porto. And for me was the right step, and the step that allowed me to improve a lot my level. Why? Because the youth, I coached the best players in Portugal in that levels, and I start to increase, and I went in university to study football, and I start to create my methodology. I start to create my exercise. I had time. For me was like a laboratory, and where I experienced everything. You understand? I spent there 5 years in youth teams of Porto, and I decided to left to start my career. I started in second division in Portugal, and Porto invite me to work in the first team, to come back to the club in the first team, because they know my work in youth teams, and they asked me to join with André Villas-Boas in the first team. Okay, was for me was a difficult step, because was like to go back, because I was head coach, and to go back. But okay, I decided to go 1 year with André. A fantastic season. We won the Europe League, the cup, the league. We won 4 trophies, and Andrea decided to go to Chelsea, and Porto decided to invite me to be the head coach of the first team. I spent in Porto 8 years, and after this, I decided to go, and I went in, the countries, a lot of countries, a lot of clubs, a lot of cultures. This is my career.
So you had a clear idea what you wanted to be as a head coach, having done the background, the groundwork before you were given the big job at Porto. You've had to deal with huge fan pressure, media pressure in the various roles that you've had at Porto, at Olympiacos, Fenerbahce, Corinthians. How do you deal with the pressure?
Flamengo, I think, is the club with is similar to Real Madrid in the South America. I think the pressure you with experience, you start to focus in yourself, to focus in your team. You understand? To focus in the things that you can increase, you can control, and you start to forget the media and the other people say about you. You understand? It's like it's normal. It's normal. Of course, when my step in between Santa Clara, the second division of Portugal, and the first team of Porto was a big step. But honestly, I felt that I was ready and prepared to give this step. You understand? Because since the beginning, I start to create my exercise. I never go to a book to see an exercise. It means that I have a model game. Imagine this. I start with the best players in Portugal, in youth teams. It means that my formation was every time to pressure the other teams, to play in offensive midfield. Our transition in Porto was a very aggressive transition. When we lose the ball, it means that I started to play as a big team since the beginning. It means that every time that I take a team, I want that my team dominate the game, play with the ball, be aggressive without the ball. And the methodology, I went to the university to understand how to connect these ideas with the methodology, the right methodology.
You're managing Al-Shabab. Just tell us about the recruitment process involved in that, having you managing in Saudi.
Is important. If I go to an interview and I feel that the club wants to play in a style and this style is aligned with my style, everything is easier. You understand? Because if, imagine this, is different to go to work in Atletico Madrid or to go in Real Madrid. Is a different, because the culture of the club is different. It means when the club has a concept, you understand, a concept of game, is easier to find the right coach, because the profile is difficult to find the right profile to play in this style. But we cannot do like this. In one season, you have a style, and the next season, you change completely the style of play. Understand? It means, in my opinion, the club must create his concept of game. And they must go for a coach that is, the profile of this coach can put the team in this style. And like this is easier to go for the right players. You understand? Because we know the style, the club has the style, the youth teams knows how to create, to increase the level of the players in this style. And we have we have the coach in the first team that works in this concept of game, in this idea of game, and we know how to go for the players with the qualities to play our style. Difficult is a problem is when you go to a meeting and the people don't know what they want. This is a problem. This is a problem.
Now let's bring in John. Vitor, we'll leave it there with you for a moment's time. Let's get a focus on the agent's role in this. Just quickly in an elevator pitch, if you can, John. Just tell us your current state of play with 451 Football Consultancy and the head coaches and the players that you're working with at the moment.
Adam, we've been in this business for over 30 years, dealing with elite coaches and elite players all over. In fact, we've worked in 25 countries all over the world. Some countries I can't even spell, I have to tell you. So we have been fortunate to be able to represent a lot of coaches, taking them to lots of different cultures. And we're a family business, and we're still continuing new avenues and new countries to do new business.
In terms of head coach recruitment in particular,
yeah.
How does it work for you? How do you matchmake? How do you make sure that you get the right guy in the right place? And how early does it start? Because often we know that clubs will start to lose faith or will be very good at succession planning, whichever way you want to look at it. A lot will be going on in the background. When do you start to really kick into gear when you know that there might be a vacancy coming up?
The very first thing is understanding when that vacancy is becoming apparent. I mean, the general public will be looking at a club that's maybe bottom of the league and say, right, anybody could say it. They're going to be looking for a coach in the next month or two. That's easy. But in this business, it's all about connections and listening to people and speaking to people on a general basis. And normally we are a bit of ahead of the game to know that when clubs will be thinking about moving their coaches on, and that might just be a whisper from a director or an owner or maybe a player or maybe even an existing coach who says, look, I won't be here much longer. So knowing and having the connections in and around the business is vital to be able to understand when you should be maybe talking to that club about a coach. And that happens earlier than you probably think.
It's interesting you mentioned the connections that you have, and obviously the longevity that you've had in the sport helps with that. But say, for example, if you're having to pitch a head coach to someone who maybe you don't have an existing relationship with, how do you go about that? It might be a first conversation with a new sporting director that's just been promoted up from somewhere else or whatever. How do you go into that conversation in a constructive way?
The very first thing I always do, if it's somebody brand new I'm speaking to at a club, I do my research on who he is and where he's been, and also know what the club are generally looking for. I mean, you won't know that until you get to meetings to find out exactly what they're looking for. But when I'm going on to sports director at the very beginning to talk about my coach, I want to know a bit about them. I want to know about what their philosophy is, and to see if it marries and matches in with who I'd like to take to the club. So the very first important thing is you have to get trust with that sports director. You have to let them to understand that you know what you're talking about in terms of the business, and you know exactly what you're going to talk about in terms of the coach that hopefully would be for his club. Really important, Adam, that you make that connection with that sports director very, very quickly. Otherwise, you could lose the business.
And when you've managed to sort of escalate the situation and you think, right, well, we might have a client that we're looking likely we might be able to get into a club, how much of a briefing, how much preparation do you give the head coach in this process before they then go and hopefully mirror what you've promised?
Well, look, the very first thing, we make sure it's a team. We make sure that coach knows as much as anybody about the club. His due diligence in us and supporting him in terms of finding out all the information from the owner to the clientele, to the staff, the players, the recruitments, the academy. We could go on and on and on. We need to gather as much information as we possibly can to assist him to be able to do a presentation to the club so that he is the particular guy they're looking for. And we do our due diligence right down to what the clear's name is. A wee bit exaggeration there, Adam. But what we do is we do generally go to as much information as possible about the club, the owners, the philosophy, and how we fit in. Because we might not fit in, as Vitor said. You go there and you go to the meeting and you come away saying, wow, that was not exactly what we were looking at. But we make sure our coaches know everything. And we even go as far as by doing mock interviews to say, look, what are the likely questions are likely to ask, and have top presentations, which is vital. And I'm sure Vitor's done many, many presentations. It's vital that you have a professional presentation.
It's become a lot more, a bigger part of the game, hasn't it? The expectation that you can come in and showcase what you're going to be able to deliver. I mean, in your lifespan within the industry, the manager presentation, how much more importance has been ramped up, especially when you're having to bring in, data-driven projections and visions for what's going to happen.
If I could go back 30 years ago when I was taking a manager to a club and the owner, was the local butcher that owned the business and liked to look at the guy and shake his hands after 5 minutes. It ain't like that anymore now. Now it's a series of meetings, it's a series of chats with the owners, the directors. I don't know how many times I've been in a room of like 8 or 10 directors. The presentation is key. But again, like Vitor says, there has to be the synergy between both before it can happen. That is a key component, because the owners need to like the coach and the coach needs to like the owners, or they need to have the same vision. Otherwise, presentations don't matter.
And just a note for all of the agents, you can represent and verify your head coach on TransferRoom's CoachFinder for agents. And it gives you a chance to pitch them to all the key people at around about 750 clubs worldwide, showcase their talents, and use data-driven recommendations to identify the best suited teams for your client as well. And to do that, visit transferroom.com/CoachFinder to learn more. Let's learn more about it and see it in play, see the product in play with Daniel Blades, who's going to rejoin us now. Dan, thanks very much for rejoining us. You've gone straight in to share your screen. I love that. Let's just dig into it. Give us a glimpse of what clubs and agents all around the world can access on CoachFinder. Then just talk us through it if you can.
Sure, yeah, no messing around. So this is Vitor's head coach profile on TransferRoom. And the idea is it's a one-stop shop to see all the available information about a head coach and our analysis of their abilities and more importantly, style. So it's a key page for a club to visit when they're evaluating a head coach, and also contains a lot of information that an agency can use when pitching their head coach to sort of increase that chance of success and relevance. So the top of this page here contains passport information, name, club, age, as well as the languages they speak, and any coaching badges they hold. If an agent was to represent Vitor on TransferRoom, that agency would appear here in this green box, and that would allow club decision makers to declare interest in Vitor and directly to his trusted agent and start a conversation. And we also have our headline metric, the head coach rating in the top right.
Yeah, tell us about that. 77.8. What does it mean, and how is it sort of generated? Give us the background.
Yeah, sure. So head coach rating is our sort of unique metric to allow you to quickly understand and demonstrate the level and performance of a head coach. So there's a breakdown of what goes into it in the summary section here. But essentially it's calculated on 3 key inputs. So firstly, the level of the team or teams that the coach has managed, then the impact he's had on their overall rating. So did that team get better or worse while he was there? And then finally, the net spend during their tenure. So how much of their success was spending lots of money, or maybe they sold a lot of players, and actually that's even more impressive that the team got better. And we would roll all that up into a 0 to 100 score for easy reference. Vitor's score is 77.8. That's really good. It's the top 5% in our database. And that's sort of similar to the likes of Mancini, Dean Smith, Stolbakken, and so on.
I can't not let Vitor react to that. You're watching this. Are you happy with your rating, Vitor? Are you happy with the company that you're in with those other coaches?
Yes, but I want to achieve better than this. You understand? In my mind is to increase every day. I'm the kind of coach that I'm not happy with what I do. You understand? Because I want to create a style and to achieve trophies, and I want to go in the best leagues in the world. You understand what I mean? But in this moment, I must be happy. I have Saudi Arabia. It means that I need to take my team, to put my team playing good football, beautiful football with the results.
Daniel, let me come back to you if I may. How do you sort of assess the track record for a head coach through CoachFinder then?
And there's sort of two sections for this. So you can see here the achievements that we list here, and we sort of pick out the highlights of a career and make them easy to see. And often this is sort of trophies, but also include promotions and relegations in here. And I think that's a key selling point, especially for agencies. And then secondly, we have this career section, which is sort of the foundation of the head coach profile, really. And it exhaustively shows someone's experience in football. So for Vitor, it sort of really demonstrates the depth and breadth of his career. It includes not just managerial role, but assistant managers, playing experience, and so on. And you can see, again, with Vitor, sort of managed successfully in a wide variety of environments, which sort of suggests very adaptable as a head coach.
Obviously, what Vitor has said on this webinar as well is showcasing his style of play. How do you assess the style of play in the metrics on CoachFinder?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a really important section when you're trying to demonstrate how your coach's teams play and their sort of philosophy and fit for a club. So we've got a lot of analysis here, but I'll just run through the first two sections. So firstly, we have this style radar, and this is to help you understand at a glance a manager's preferences in terms of pressing, width, directness, and so on. So you can select any season in that they've managed under, and you can compare with any coach in our global database. So you can see, again, sort of in the Fenerbahce season, there's Vitor's team pressed really highly, played really wide. Then on this second section, you can also see formation preferences. So again, you take away from this, for Vitor, really mixed, really adaptable, as he said before. Mild preference for 4-3-3, but against weaker teams, more likely to play sort of the 3 or 5 at the back shape.
That is fascinating. I wanted to see more. From Vitor, your point of view, obviously you will have a clear style of play, but how adaptable do you have to be? You might really, really want the job, but you know that you will have to maybe change the way that you approach it. Is that a challenge for you?
Of course, because it's different to work in Porto with a strong team with high quality players, and after to go direct to Saudi Arabia, but the intentionality of play was the same. You understand? Of course, when you try exercise in Porto, they play one touch easier. In the easier way with high quality, and you arrive in Saudi Arabia with the same exercise. Of course, in the beginning, the quality of the exercise is not the same, but you have the experience to change one or another thing is the same with the style of play. You want to start build the game from the goalkeeper. If I can't change because I like a style of play. I like a style. This is something that is something like my personality. I like quality in the game, and I like to be aggressive when I don't have the ball. This is something of my personality also. And of course, when I go to Saudi Arabia, I try to increase the level of this style of play that I want. But of course, I need to understand the quality of the players that I have. It means that the level in Porto is not the same level in Saudi Arabia. But when I do my presentation, I like to show to the club that we can do it in China, in Saudi Arabia, in Porto, in Greece, in Turkey. And what I do in my presentation, I show the exercise in the training in the different countries, in the different levels of clubs, and they can show that it's possible to play with this style in all over the world. This is very important. And putting the players in a position that they are comfortable. They're respecting the qualities of the players.
And that sometimes may well need the integration of younger players, and youth development is a big part of any football club, or the majority of football clubs. They would like to be able to produce their own talent. Where does that fit in, Daniel, to this product, CoachFinder? Because it's tough, isn't it? It's not always easy for a head coach who wants to make an impact.
Yeah, and jump the gun a little bit there. Like you say, it's increasingly important for clubs and for in terms of their considerations. So we devoted a whole section of the coach profile to it. We have this concept of trust in youth, again, a proprietary metric for evaluating how a coach develops young players, and do they, if they have those players in their squad, do they play them when they don't necessarily need to be choosing those young players and developing them? So it's 0 to 100 score based on the minutes given to young players, the average age of their teams, and things like first team debuts given to young players during their tenure. We then go a bit further and we have sort of analysis of minutes played. Again, you can select any season, and you can see where those minutes, those precious minutes, are being allocated by the head coach and to players of different ages, and we're sort of highlighting any young players that are sort of contributing especially largely. And also then we benchmark that. So we benchmark a sort of starting 11 average age within your league. So you can see that actually Al-Shabab under Vitor are relatively young compared to the rest of the Saudi Pro League.
I wanted to just bring John in, if I may, on this. It was interesting when earlier on I was looking and you were comparing, Daniel, the two head coaches and being able to almost pitch them against each other. From your point of view, John, how does data like this help to inform the way that you present your coach to a club?
It's vitally important data, because if you go to a club these days that are professional, they'll have all the detail of that, all the data of the players in front of them. They'll have the data of what Vitor's done before, and they'll be asking questions about that or about the coach before. So it's really important currently that you understand the data that you're going to speak about, and the clientele is much or more than what they have. So you need to have it, because I don't know of a current professional club at a high level that doesn't have a data analyst who is classed up there as one of the high personnel. It's a big thing these days.
Some clubs are purely based on data. Some have data departments, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a huge part of the game, and obviously TransferRoom is central to that at the moment. Just a quick final one for you, Daniel, if I may. Is there anything else that you feel an agent should focus on when they're presenting a head coach to a club?
Sure, yeah. So we've got this last one as well, and I'll bring it up because Vitor actually mentioned working with Villas-Boas. So this references section we have here, I think this is a really nice section for agencies to show, firstly, who influences a coach, and so yeah, say who they've worked under, but also their support staff and who they've worked with, and we've got, again, exhaustively list all the people that they've worked with in their career and where they've worked with them and how long that's been for, and you can get a real feel for not just the head coach, but their team as well.
That's fantastic, because it is all part of the network, isn't it? To be able to sort of check references and just get a real sense check on who the head coach is that you're potentially going to bring in. Daniel, thank you very much for that presentation. I hope for the people watching, it's given everyone a bit more of a taste of what CoachFinder from TransferRoom is all about, if you're not already familiar with it. I just wanted to, just very briefly, because it's something that we spoke about right at the top of this webinar, just a short answer from you, Vitor. The fact that, and this is to John as well, the fact that the average tenure of a head coach now is just 8 months, how does that make you feel? And why do you think it is so short?
We don't have time in football. In our mind is to find a project that you have time to increase the level, to increase, but in the end are the results. And sometimes we cannot see behind the results, you understand? The clubs, they cannot see behind the results. Some clubs, they have the patience. They have people that understand about football, that understand about the work that the coach are doing, and they believe in the project because they have a project. They have the intention to increase the level in 2 or 3 years. But football in this moment, the reality of football in this moment is the next game. You understand? If you win the next game, okay, you have a project. If you lose, maybe you are out. Is the football today? But for me, I don't think about the time. This is not a pressure for me. You understand? This is not extra pressure for me, because I believe if I go to a club, for sure, I will try to increase the level of the young players, because this is something that I love to do it, and this was grateful for me to see to see this on the board. You understand? Because this is one of the reasons that I'm in football. Maybe because I spent 5 years in the youth teams. I like I love to work with young players. To take one team from this level to another level, you need a little bit of time. You understand? You need to look for the young players and to give them time.
John, from your point of view, why do you think the 10 years are getting shorter and shorter?
The exact same thing that Vitor says, results. You go to a club, they only want results like yesterday. That's why they're bringing in a new coach. But the way I get around about that is, 8 months is, that would make anybody nervous going for a job. But when we're going to present to a club, we put in, and use the word time a lot, we put in time scales and time, monumental times where we should be going through this project. If we're saying it's a 3-year program, we want to make sure we are hitting certain things at certain times so that it's difficult for the owners to be able to remove our coach. Because if we're saying to them, look, in the first 6 months, we'll change this and we've made that, we've ticked that box. So the time thing is something that we speak about very strongly when we do in our presentation. Because, Vitor's a coach. He's not a magician getting Al-Shabab to win the league. It takes time, it takes effort. It takes a lot of commitment and a lot of passion, and we have to educate owners that we need time, and that's something that we do in our presentation.
Let's bring in one of the questions. Thank you very much once again for all the questions that you've sent in. This is from João Rico, and it's for Vitor. I think maybe we can get John's response on this as well. To Vitor, when you are choosing an agent, what advice would you give to young coaches who have maybe not reached your level yet, and they still want someone to represent them? What's the best piece of advice in selecting the right agent?
My experience is, depends the level that you are, because you cannot, if you go for a big agent when you are starting your career, it's difficult to get the job, because he had another level, and it's difficult to find the level of the clubs that you want, that you need. You understand? It means that your agent, sometimes we find the right person in the beginning. Other times is important when your career is growing up, you need to find another agent to follow your level. You understand what I mean?
I guess it's a tough selection process. I mean, John, you've been on the other side of it, people wanting a good agent. What's your perspective on this, especially for a younger head coach that obviously wants to go far, but wants to select the right agent? Because you're an agent yourself, but you will have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of other agents as well.
It's a very good question, because people come to me regularly and say, I would like, John, can you help me or recommend what agent or what type of agent I should be getting? And Vitor got it bang on. When you're just starting out as a coach, a top agent won't put in the same time to you as a new coach. That's just business, and that's normal, and please accept that. In different levels, he's right as well. For me, if somebody comes to me and says, look, I'm looking for an agent to help me in my coaching career, I've just started, I'm doing my first coaching role, I would recommend that they find somebody that aligns with them at that level. It aligns with where they're at in their career as well as an agent, and you'll get more time and more effort and more response from that type of agent. And sure, if you move on as a coach and you move up into a bigger league and he doesn't have the connections, then you're quite entitled to move to a bigger agent. But at the very beginning, you should be aligning yourself with an agent who'll put all the time and effort and enthusiastic situation to take you to the right level. But that may change as life goes on. Or the agent might move up with you and you stay with them, as Vitor said, through your career. But the most important thing I say to people when they're looking for an agent is go and do your research. Check what background he's got. Check how many coaches he's moved. Go and meet him a couple of times. Get your lawyer to meet him. Whatever it is, do as much research as possible, because some agents may tell you that they've done some things and they haven't, and the next thing you know, you've got a contract you don't want to be in.
Let's bring Daniel in, because there's been a few questions, obviously, following up from the showcase that you've given CoachFinder. How are you seeing clubs at the moment using the product? And have you got any, real life examples of how it's been the perfect matchmaking tool, if that's the right terminology? So
we're seeing a lot of usage. So to give one example without overly naming names, we've seen a championship club recently hire a head coach that we know they looked at many times on the platform, and it's really important for us to understand how our users use our data. And you can sort of see that club filtering our database, looking for sort of coaches with high press, with possession and above a certain rating, and with high trust in youth. And then from there on, they're sort of looking at profiles of multiple coaches, which is a good process. So coaches who looked and sort of recently managed in England, Germany, Norway, USA, really spraying the field wide and sort of opening up doors. And then looking at their trusted agents and their profile data, and then obviously going on to appoint one of those. And
just very quickly on that, there's a question that's come in from Lilia, and it's something that I noticed myself looking at it with fresh eyes, in terms of being able to compare those two head coaches that maybe you've whittled down. That's vitally important, isn't it? Because it can be a direct comparison at the moment that club is going to make a final decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And as with anything in life, if you're sort of widening your pool of talent or your choices, it helps you make better decisions. So you might use something like the head coach rating to sort of and top level filters to sort of get a bracket of candidates. But the coach rating is great for that snapshot and finding someone at the appropriate level. And then after that, you want to drill down into sort of the style and their tendencies. Do they fit my club? Are they familiar with my league or my region? Do they speak the language? All that kind of stuff is available on the profiles.
Let's just bring in Vitor quickly, because it's a question that has been sort of touched upon by quite a few people watching. And that is, how do you find the right balance between selecting the right players for you at a club, but also the right players for the club, even if it isn't going to be with you? Sort of a longer term recruitment policy. How do you do that?
I decided to stay in Shabab one more year because I have an Italian sport director. And when the sport director is connected with your ideas and your ideas is connected with him, it's very easy to work. What happens? Okay, I select 3 or 4 players for one position. They have the same style of play, and they have to play in the way that we want to play. You understand? We know is very clear for us the way that we want to play in the next season. And I select 3-4 players for each position. Of course, the market is not with me, is with him, because he needs to work in the market. If he said to me, Vitor, this is cheaper than that one, okay. For me, the players, they have quality, both, and we choose for the club which is more economic. You understand what I mean? It's like this. When the things, but you cannot allow is they propose to you a player and you don't like the player. If you don't like the player, they can't go for the player, because if they go to the player, you will not play with you. Yeah. You understand? And this is the problem. This is the problem.
John, just a very quick question to you at the end here, almost like your pearls of wisdom to end. The biggest mistakes to avoid from an agent's perspective when it comes to pitching a head coach to a club, because at the end of the day, if you get that wrong, they're not going to come knocking on your door again, are they?
Look, the biggest thing is when your pitches, be brutally honest. If you're telling a sporting director about coach and you're making his figures wrong, or you're telling lies about him, or you're doing something that isn't correct, they'll know, because these people have got access. The very, very first thing is be transparent and honest. And look, there might be some things that the head coach isn't good at, but he's really good at lots of other things. It's to be honest, because people are not stupid. If you can be brutally honest with whoever you're speaking to, the sporting director or the owner, for me, that will come. You might not get the first coach in, but he'll respect you and he'll come back to you maybe for the next thing. And for me, that's vital.
That's brilliant, John. Huge thank you to John, to Vitor as well. We wish you all the success in your future career. Thank you so much for being part of it. And to Daniel as well, thank you for your insight too. And thank you very much to everyone for watching. Obviously, for your questions as well, just to help the debate move forward. Now, the full video is going to be on TransferRoom's YouTube channel very, very soon. So you can subscribe to the TransferRoom channel to see it and watch all of the latest videos beyond this one. There's more about CoachFinder and CoachFinder for agents and how they're helping head coaches land the best role at the right club. TransferRoom.com/CoachFinder. And clubs, agents and players can join TransferRoom now, football's only marketplace to accelerate transfer market success with access to the biggest network of decision makers in the global game, ladies and gentlemen watching around the world. If you want more details, remember, visit TransferRoom.com to learn more. From me, Adam Leventhal, thank you very, very much for watching. And we'll see you again very, very soon, I'm sure. Take care. Thank you for watching.